Good morning, friends. Hey, once again, it is Dave and Randy, and we're talking a little bit about things in the first and second half of life. Now, gosh, we've recorded more than once talking about what the first and second half of life is. So if you're not familiar with it, I suggest you go to episode 1. That'll serve you much better than us trying to do a short recap. But basically, as you can imagine, if there's two halves of lives, there is a transition in way we live. And well, on top of Dave being a husband, a father, a pastor at the Effects Church in San Juan Capistrano, an author, he's also a counselor. He's a pretty good one. He's been doing it for a long, long time, and he's helped a lot of people. He's helped me very, very much so. So I thought today might be a good idea. When somebody comes to Dave for the first time, he talks to them about, well, their daily activities, just so you know a little bit better on what your standard operating procedures are. So you get a better understanding of where you're at, so you can understand a little bit better on what the journey is to, how you're going to get to where you want to be. Because again, this is very much about changing. And a little goes a long way. Wouldn't you say so, Dave?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if someone was to meet with you for the first time, what would you be asking?
Okay. Let me just back up a bit.
Okay.
If we're going to help somebody be able to move into the second half of life, which is looking inward, finding inward identity, being able to find meaning and purpose that is separate from what we can produce out there in terms of our roles and our accomplishments and so on and so forth. We have to be working with somebody, and someone has to be working with themselves at a place of pretty much equilibrium. So if there is someone who is presenting who is emotionally dysregulated, is going through some sort of crisis, is in a state of angst, has kind of a mental defect or a problem or past trauma, PTS, all those sorts of things. It is those things have to be cleared up first. If here's the water line, and we want to ascend from the water line, but we're underwater, then we're going to have to bring ourselves up to the water line, and then we can start dealing with the more spiritual issues afterwards. And so that's part of this whole thing. So if someone's coming to me for the first time, and just knowing that they're in a state of dysregulation and angst, and they know that they want more, then the first thing is to go through the gamut. We always start with the clinical. Is there some sort of clinical, organic, physical thing that's going on? Is there neurochemical imbalance? Is there trauma from the past? And then take a look at that, do an assessment, find out, does this person need to have some kind of intervention, some kind of help to get them just to a place of equilibrium, a relative equilibrium, right? And then we can start working on if we call it spiritual formation, if we call it second half of life journey, or we just call it, working on spiritual but not religious issues, however you want to call it. From the clinical, then you can go to the actual psychological issues that might be working in their lives. But the idea is to work them through till they get to a place of equilibrium. Then the second thing that I think you really need to take a look at is, what is the goal here? What is it that we're trying to achieve as people? Everybody's different, of course. Everybody has a unique story. Everybody has the individual and unique issues that need to be dealt with. And yet at the same time, everybody's the same. We all have universal purpose in life, and we're all going to find meaning in that purpose. And to define that and to know what it is that we're going for is really important as well. And for my money, Brene Brown says it best. The whole reason we're here is to connect. Biologically, neurologically, that's how we're wired. We're wired to connect. Now, if we're going to call that love, if we're going to call that unity and oneness in spiritual terms, whatever we're going to call it, the idea is that we never feel better. We never feel more effective and efficient, and we're never more attractive than when we're in real connection with people. And when we're able to connect with people, That's how life feels meaningful. That's how life feels purposeful. And truly, that's where we find our sense of identity is going to be in the relationship, in connection. So to try to do the kind of things we're talking about doing, either from a psychological or from a spiritual point of view, without putting it in the context of connection and community, is basically just counterproductive. It's not going to work. No matter how much progress you think you've made, if it's not in community, it's not going to work. Brene Brown says this brilliantly. If anybody hasn't yet seen The Power of Vulnerability, last time I was on the site, she's up to about 60 million views. So there's been a good amount of people who have seen this. But the way she speaks it is that, yes, community connection is why we're here. And of all the people that she researched and interviewed, those who had connection had a connected life, and those who did not, what separated them was shame. She defined shame as the fear of disconnection. Brilliant, right? If you are fearing that you're not going to be connectable, that nobody's going to accept you, that if they really get to know you, they're going to run screaming from the room, that's going to keep you from allowing people to see who you are. And if people can't see who you are, if you're not willing to show them, then you are not connectable. By definition, you will not be in connection because you're keeping your defenses up. You're pulling yourself back. And it's that fear of disconnection. So what do the people who are connecting and have a connected life have that the other ones don't? Well, she said that they had the courage to be imperfect, which is a way of saying that they were willing to be vulnerable in each other's presence. Now, some of them had a good head start in childhood because they had families that were reasonable enough, healthy enough, that they were able to get a decent self-image and be able to show people who they were. Other people are operating from a deficit. At any rate, the people who can connect are the ones that believe that they're worthy of connection, and for no other reason. Because once you believe you're worthy of that connection, then you're able to connect. How you get there is part of what this is all about. This is why a proper understanding, if we're talking about the gospel here, the proper understanding of the gospel is so important. It has nothing to do with performance that you need to hit. That's just more recipe for feeling unworthy. It's that there already is a love. There already is an acceptance. There already is a connection that is unbreakable. And we just have to be willing to pick it up. Same sort of idea. So when someone comes to me for the first time and wants to talk about whatever the issue is, first I want to hear what their story is. Stories are everything. Tell me your story. What brought you here to this conversation today? And I'll hear all the topical things. I'll hear all the things that they're dealing with at the moment. I may hear some things from the past, and then I'll start asking some pointed questions to try to get a fuller idea how much of what they're feeling is coming from the outside in, situational issues, right? And how much of it is coming from the inside out, those endemic issues that are coming from their childhood, from their core beliefs, everything that's programmed into them, and try to get a sense of the person. Now, I know that the way through their issues is always going to be in connection, because we just established, if you bought that connection is the reason why we're here. And so being connectable and being connected is going to be the way through the issues that we face, to prove to ourselves that life does have meaning and purpose. And so one of the first things I'm going to do is going to ask them about their daily routine and their weekly routine. What does your day and week look like? And when I get the answers back, what I'm looking for is that I believe that there are 5 essentials that every single one of us needs in order to feel that life is meaningful and purposeful and to get a sense of our own identity. And those 5 issues are community, accountability, structure, discipline, and service. Those 5 are telling. So when I ask a person for their daily or weekly routine, what I'm looking for is where are those 5 elements in this person's life? Now, typically, if someone is coming because they're all dysregulated and having issues in their life, 1, 2, 3, all of those are going to be absent in their life. It's usually the breakdown of those elements in their life that are causing the problems, or the problems have caused the breakdown. Either way, we've gotten to a place where those are no longer present in any real form. So what do we mean by those 5? Community is obviously groupings of people that connect under some sort of banner and have some sort of structure. Has to have a structure. If a community isn't meeting at least once a week, then it's not really going to be considered a community. And hopefully it's going to be multiple times per week. Sometimes people say, oh yeah, I belong to this group. And how often do you meet? Well, once a month. I said, well, that's great, but it's not enough. You know, it's not going to really fulfill what community is all about. So community is groupings of people that is structured, and they are meeting at least once a week and usually more. If you are going to have community, that means you need to be disciplined to the structure. You need to actually be showing up. But it's not just about showing up and being a wallflower, showing up and checking off a mark on your page. Kind of like if you're part of a 12-step group, that could be your community. But if you're just showing up to check off a court card and you're leaving again, that's not really what we're talking about. If you show up to a community and you're coming early and you're talking to people and you're getting phone numbers and you're staying late, and you are connecting with people to the extent that if you miss an event, they're going to notice it, they're going to miss you, and they're going to call you and see if you're okay. Now you're accountable. And that is a huge difference. There's a line that we can cross when we become part of a group into accountability that makes all the difference. And you can't be accountable unless you're disciplined to the structure. And so those first four all kind of work together to show that a person is actually connecting with people. And then if you are doing those four things, then all kinds of needs are going to be just parading in front of you constantly. And your ability to be present enough and willing to help informally in whatever comes across your path, that would be the service that we're talking about. Yes, you can also take on formal commitments and be part of the service of this group, this community in different ways, but just being present is going to make all the difference in the world. Putting these five essentials, these pillars, back into your life, rebuilding the community, starting to show up to things that you maybe forgot about. And a work group can be your community, you know, as long as you're really accountable to it and you're starting connecting and drawing friendships out of it. But it can be anything. Yes, it can be a church. It can be a 12-step group. It can be a chess club. It can be a hiking group. It can be anything. And the place that you start is your bliss. What do you love doing? All right. You love walking. You love hiking. Well, now do it with a group of hikers. You know, go on meetup.com or whatever and find a group that is hiking. You love bike riding. You love whatever it may be. Music, you know, you're in a band, Randy. Being in a band can be a great community as long as it's checking off those 5 boxes as well. So starting with your bliss, starting with what you love, finding groups of people that do the same thing, warming back up relationships that have fallen off, whether it's friends or family. The pandemic stripped away so much of our community and our institutions for community. People still haven't rebuilt those yet. They're now working remotely, and they're still working remotely, and they haven't rebuilt everything that is broken down in their lives. Usually because of the problems that people are facing, and you can say which is the cart and which is the horse, a lot of friendships and family connections just fall by the wayside. Calling people up, reconnecting, asking if we can go to coffee. To have that one thing that you're doing a week that you can point to in a group that you're at, that then engenders coffees and maybe dinners and times even phone calls or Zoom calls, so that you've got multiple connections per week is the beginning of rebuilding the connection that we need for the health that we're talking about. So that's kind of the process. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. And sometimes we got to go back and really start fixing things that are broken, you know, that really cause people to shut down, you know, from finances to relationships to children to whatever it may be. And so obviously that's there too. But this other part is absolutely essential, because a connection is where the healing is lying. How's all that?
That is pretty darn complete. I mean, really can't think much to ask or say. I mean, it is a lot there, but it is also that simple, as you started off with, you know, quoting Dr. Brene Brown. I mean, yeah, if you don't have connection within, or at least I'll speak for myself, when I have not had connection with my innermost self, and I therefore was not able to have connection with other people, yeah, life was not good. In fact, I would even describe it as hell on earth. Now, for myself, my story, it was from the outside in. I was connecting with people that were patient and kind with me when I couldn't be patient and kind with myself. So again, community was really, really helpful for me to realize that I'm not as bad as I thought I was, you know. And community helped me a lot with realizing I'm not as good as I thought either.
Yeah.
Is well, it is been said in several meetings I've gone to, we get right sized. And to be at that level where, yeah, I'm not really any better than anyone in this community, and I'm not any worse than any community. We're just here enjoying each other's presence. Probably some people
Which
more
is
than
the
others.
best, which is the best definition of humility you'll ever get, right? It's just understanding your real relationships with each other and with higher power or whatever. Not any more, not any less. That's great, Randy.
Well, thank you. I don't know. Again, it's just been part of this polishing the stone and stuff to get to a place where I do believe I am in this second half of life where, and it's just sometimes quite strange because I spent a whole life about accomplishing things, proving to myself and to the world that I was smart, that I was strong, that I was successful, and get to a place where I don't have to accomplish anything for satisfaction. Now, I have to do some stuff because I can get bored without doing any of this. Frankly, these videos are part of one of the things that I do find my bliss. I enjoy connecting with you. I know that this has helped me, and I have this hypothesis that people watching this will benefit from it as well. But frankly, this is really just an introduction, guys, gals, people. This is kind of meant to make you nod your head and go, yeah. So really where the next step would be, if you've heard anything that Dave shared that's resonated in a way that you could see as you personally benefit from, I want to encourage you. Again, there's been so many wonderful people that have helped me go from someone who is hateful to being grateful. But Dave, frankly, is right at the top of the list. So if anybody'd like to get a hold of you, Dave, just again, for whatever reason, they could email you is probably the easiest way. How would people get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah, email would be good. You can find me at our website at theeffect.org. I'm just Dave at theeffect.org, DAVE. So that's all possible.
Okay. And I'll put it in this Facebook post as well to make it simple. Because probably not everybody has pen and paper when they're listening to this. But yeah. So again, thank you once again, Dave, for sharing your insights. And friends, thanks for taking time out of your day and listening. Again, I know this is going into sales guy stuff, but I'm a sales guy and stuff. If you're stuck and unsure of what next steps are, you don't have to do anything other than just desire the change, a relief from this suffering. And when you acknowledge, one, that you're suffering, and two, that you want change and such, reach out to someone, someplace, and say, some of the hardest words ever that I've ever is like going, can you help me? Or however you would phrase it and stuff. But it really begins with realizing that we can't do this alone. Sorry. I myself am personally a testimony, can't do it alone. But I've had the privilege of talking with some people and such that also acknowledge that we were just not wired. We are not created to do this thing called life alone. And you may be like I lived for most of my life as a lonely man in a crowded room. You've built up a force field. People have let you down. People have disappointed you. They've abandoned you and such. And you never want to be hurt again. And the way that you're going to heal is you're going to have to let at least one person know that you're not okay. I mean, is that bit, again, Dave's helped many people. Would you say that's the first step?
Absolutely. It comes back down to the courage to be imperfect, the courage to be vulnerable. If you are projecting, as you just said, in any way, trying to be more than you are, trying to prove to people who you are, being grandiose, or if you're doing just the opposite, You're pulling away from people because you feel so inadequate or worthless or whatever. If you are in any way either not presenting who you are, or you are hiding behind your defenses, then you're not connecting. You're not allowing people to see who you are. The first step is to start with anybody who you trust enough with that information. Start there, just as you said, Randy, and talk to them. Let them know what's really going on. Let them see you. And when they don't run screaming from the room and they come back to you with their vulnerabilities, and that first hint of connection starts to take place, then you realize how possible this all is.
Yeah, and it is possible. All right. Well, again, thank you all for your time. Appreciate it. Until we meet again, may peace be with you.